Dear friends of the Dhamma, it is with deep respect and honor that I express my kind thoughts and well wishes to Maha Chulakon Raj Vidyalaya University, the MCU, for organizing the UN Vesak Day in Thailand in celebration of the thrice sacred day of Vesak, full moon, Poya Day, of the Buddhist era, 2567. As mentioned earlier, the common era of 2023. As this year we gather in regurgitation to celebrate important milestones in our journey together. My sincere gratitude goes to the most venerable Mahasangha, International Council for Day of Vesak, International Association of Buddhist Universities, the Mahachulakon Raja Vidyalaya University in Ayodhya, this historic Buddhist city that we are meeting, to the United Nations ESCAP in Bangkok, and to the organizations of the UN related to this event. Prince Siddhartha Gautama, destined to be the greatest religious teacher of the world, was born on a Vesak day. Though brought up in lap of luxury, he clearly understood sorrow of humanity. And after superhuman struggle of years, unaided and unguided, but with his own efforts and wisdom, eradicated all defilements in the process of grasping, realizing pain as true they are on his own knowledge. On the full moon day of Vesak, and he became Buddha, the enlightened one. He was not born Buddha, but he became Buddha. For 45 years, the Buddha taught and worked for good and happiness of all beings, human and other, and passed away on a full moon day of Vesak, leaving to his disciples the doctrine and discipline as their only teacher. The teaching complements and emphasizes the importance on integration of human activity. Madhyama, Patipaja, the moderate or the middle path, and Parattamam, Patipajata, to engage in the service of others, which collectively protects and serves all ecology. As we gathered here in Thailand this year, we celebrate, as mentioned by the Naik priest, the 20th anniversary and the 18th occasion of the United Day of Vesak. It is an important milestone in our journey. As Buddhists gathered from all parts of the globe, to foster and propagating the teachings of the Enlightened One, as over 1/5 of the population of today's world regard the Buddha as their supreme teacher, along with all others joining with us. Let us take a moment to remember that today we celebrate this great day of Buddhist world over because of a resolution moved on behalf of the Mahasangha and followers of the Buddha world over by an exemplary son of Sri Lanka, an international diplomat and our foreign minister, late Lakshman Kadiragama. Let us also remember the immense blessings continuously given by the late King of Thailand, His Majesty Bhumiwal Atulajaya. Relations between Thailand and Sri Lanka are over a millennia. As we exchange teachings of the Buddha to establish and to revive the Buddha Sasana over and over again, Sri Lanka is always grateful to the most venerable Upali Nayaka Thera from Siam for reviving the Sangha order in Sri Lanka. In fact, this year, Sri Lanka celebrates the 270th anniversary efforts of the most venerable Upali Mahathera of Thailand and the most venerable Sahanankara Sangha Raja of Sri Lanka. Together they revived the Sangha order of Sri Lanka and established the Siam sector of Sangha in Sri Lanka. This august gathering and our journey so far would have not been possible if not for the foresighted guidance and the blessings of the most venerable Sangharaja Mahathera of Thailand. On behalf of His Excellency the President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Sri Lanka, the government and the people of Sri Lanka, as Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, I extend warm wishes for the best of health, happiness and long life and peace to His Holiness Samditra Aryabanga Gatayana Sangharaja of Thailand. The success of this annual assembly is also mainly due to the far-sighted patronage of the King of Thailand, His Majesty Maha Vajiralongkorn. His Majesty is special to Mahasangha and people of Sri Lanka. As we remember, His Majesty visited Colombo, Kandy and Galle in Sri Lanka in 1993, 30 years ago. And then Crown Prince visited Deepadutta Rama temple in Colombo, where since 1897, royal ancestors of His Majesty's family were ordained and lived in bhikkhuhood. While in Kandy, His Majesty visited the most sacred tooth relic of the Buddha at Sri Dalada Maligaon. As Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, I convey best wishes of the President of Sri Lanka to His Majesty the King for long life, best of health, happiness and peace. United Nations Day of Vesak has shown a glowing example in the sincere interest of the United Nations to understand deeply how Buddhist wisdom can cope with global crisis and thereby bring fresh remedies for a new way forward. All of us who are gathered here understands that mindful citizens across today's world engage in enlightened discussions of the Buddhist responses to sustainable development, to social change, to global warming, to environmental protection, to healthy life, to peace building, to post-conflict recovery and similar discussions. Of course, there is no greater crisis than samsara, this endless cycle. This, the enlightened one mindfully, critically analyze through the application of the cause and effect, realizing the true nature of things as they are truly are. Then understood the middle path as the only moderate, pragmatic way forward, and the need to mindfully be engaged with oneself in path until cessation or end was reached. As Buddhists, for us, every other crisis is only a new opening to engage, solving and managing issues with a fresh state of mine. A lifelong engagement in deep, thoughtful establishment of practices towards caring for the environment, human, animal, and forests, and was founded by the Enlightened One. The importance of being content is only echoed in Buddhist teachings, underlying the responsible and the moderate use of time and resources for human progress. Wisdom, words of health is the greatest wealth, was taught 2,600 years ago to the world by the Enlightened One. It was Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, who began the greatest revolution in history of mankind by challenging and revolutionizing the then established social structure towards responsible upliftment of individuals and society's sustainability through the moderate path. Today, we are meeting after a global pandemic of unprecedented scale, where loss of human lives was counted in millions in all corners of the world, of all walks of life, from the affluent to the poor. It opened minds of the world to realize that no longer sole survival through material wealth alone was possible, and overcoming a crisis of such magnitude was only through collective reach out in the service of others. Aftermath of the pandemic was soon followed by a global economic crisis, contributing to a tremendous slowdown of economic activity around the world, pushing more people below the poverty lines. This includes families consisting of children, the elderly, women, youth, and other vulnerable sections of society. This furthered scarcity of essentials across the world. Neither governments, private sector, nor any establishment was able to find a reasonable solution. On the other hand, if I may quote, the US President Biden clearly exposed during the same period, the global shipping magnates were making unreasonable profits of over 1,000%, causing further disruption and shortages in distribution of essentials like food, medicine, and key exports to the world. To level the situation, President Biden had to intervene with a tax remediation that was to bring things closer to a middle path, to lessen worries of those suffering and moderate overindulgence in unethical super gains. Sri Lanka in the last 10 months have let go of decades-long extreme economic policies and have adopted a central path of rebuilding the country. This has tremendously helped Sri Lanka to show great resilience and regain global confidence to continue steer ahead in the central path. Gautama the Buddha in Anguttara Nikaya, Anana Sutta talked about the indebtedness. The meaning of the word Anana is debt-free. If an individual or a nation could live Anana or debt-free, the individual or the country could attain 4 kinds of happiness. Sukha, happiness of ownership of wealth by righteous means. Moga Sukha, happening of using the wealth so on properly. And Ananda Sukha, happiness of being debt-free. Anavajana Sukha, happiness of leading a blameless life. That is the culmination of happy state and peace. Therefore, let this August Assembly unanimously call and give attention to a universal moratorium or any other similar remedy on all debt and unserviceable financial commitments accumulated on nations as a result and societies as a result of unprecedented COVID pandemic, which was never heard, seen, or imagined by humankind. This is fundamentally the most ethical relief that could be granted to millions of the worried minds world over. Modern crisis begins with an ever-growing human population. Today the world has more than 8 billion people. This phenomenon growth has to continuously grapple with scarcity of water, land and forests, food, in their struggle to fulfill essential needs to sustain life. This is amidst global pandemics, natural calamities, financial meltdowns and destructive wars. The world's most populous nation till beginning of this year was China, with over 1.4 billion people, and they had to carry out a specifically targeted poverty alleviation program in recent past to uplift over 500 million people out from absolute rural poverty. Their success is a valid example in history of mankind and important in poverty alleviation, tackling issues with a fresh state of mind. 80 million rural farmers of India, directly paid by the Prime Minister's office in Delhi, electronically dispatching nearly over $2 billion US, recognizing the village agriculture production as a backbone component in food production to serve today's world by the most populous nation, India. Again, tackling with a fresh state of mind. Most recently, Spain in Europe was able to continuously power 100% of electricity demand during a heavy weekday purely through renewable energy sources of hydro, solar and wind, thereby being considerate of the environment as well as the public demand, marking what could be coming in essential energy formulas of tomorrow's world over. Once again, tackling with a fresh state of mind. Similarly, sufficient economic policy of Thailand is a good example, providing the linkages between Buddhism and sustainable development. Is based on Buddhist world's view on interrelationships with economy, society and environment, which has been extended to public, private and citizens' organizations. Therefore, clearly in Asia, showing way to the world how this fundamentally most essential crisis has to be met with fresh state of mind. It has been said in many times, in many forums, that the century belongs to Asia. Asia is where historical wisdom and practices must be discovered essentially for world's future. And ASEAN is an integral part of our Asia. ASEAN is a doorway Buddhist wisdom for the mind, sustainable agriculture practices in global food production. The Theravada tradition is the most sought after wisdom in today's world. Mindfulness through Vipassana meditation is the core synergy for Theravada countries to be in service and heal many crises of the world. Towards this endeavor, a broader cooperation among the Theravada nations, namely Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos, and organizations in Theravada, working with the other sectors of the Buddhism, must further strengthen greater free movement, mobility, and interaction among our nations. The other importantly essential is the Dhamma schools world over, where the future, the youth, both girls and boys, are nurtured in the most wholesome education, focused in the humane aspect in global scale, and mindfulness in a modern civilization. On behalf of the government and the Prime Minister, as Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, I wish to inform this August Assembly that Sri Lanka is willing to take these steps forward with blessings of this Council on Vesak to organize the UN Vesak Day in the future as agreed upon. This will be a great strength and blessings for Sri Lanka and her people too. Let us remember that this is the age of information, and even call it the age of misinformation. As information is powerful, it can be used for betterment and for the worst. The Buddhist world should be mindful of this, and I wish to quote from late Dr. Ananda Guruge, an eminent Buddhist scholar. In the 26th century Buddhist history, no major wars, invasions, coercions or the use of force had taken place in the name of Buddhism or on account of the rise of Buddhist tradition. The recent and the current conflicts in traditionally Buddhist countries are in no way connected with Buddhism, even though Western media sometimes so misrepresent them. On the contrary, the Buddhist communities are an inspiring example of selfless assistance to victims of prejudice and violence. This is the impact of Buddha's precept and practice. Remember to always emphasize Buddhists have historically and world over practiced non-violence as the foremost principle. Sahnayaka Theras, President of the Council of Vesak Day, in conclusion, I wish to express my sincere gratitude and once again pay my humble veneration to the most venerable Professor Ram Pandit, President of the International Council for Day of Vesak, for his continued and untiring efforts and commitment towards achieving this great success in organizing and leading this assembly with organizations and the Buddhist Brotherhood of the world. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May blessings of the Triple Gem be with you. Buddhu Sarana Veva.